Hometown radio station, WPKY, The Tiger. U-Ride in Princeton is proud to sponsor the Sideline Report each Thursday here in your hometown radio station, WPKY, The Tiger. Go on out to U-Ride on Marion Road. Ask for Dave's Deal of the Week. It's usually the spotlight vehicle of the week, and it's waiting for you at U-Ride. Dave Harden is the sales manager at U-Ride. Go on out and ask to test drive Dave's Deal of the Week. It's out at U-Ride on Marion Road in Princeton. Give them a call, 270-365-3018, U-Ride of Princeton.
Oh, yeah. Check out Dave's Deal of the Week. It's always a great vehicle, and that's out of U-Ride at 9:05. And welcome to the Sideline Report. Good morning, Mr. Todd. How are you?
Good morning. How's it going?
Doing great. And humidity down a little bit. It's still warm out there, but it's West Kentucky. It is summertime in West Kentucky.
Yeah, breaking news. In the summer, it gets hot.
Yeah. And, of course, we've got guys, dead period's over. We got athletes out on the field now, and they're working around this stuff, but they're doing it.
It's essentially the fall sports season right now.
It certainly is, and we'll be getting into all that kind of good stuff, and we've got a great show lined up here today, and I'll let you introduce who we're going to have right off the bat here.
Okay, first of all, I do want to remind everybody we've got a top 5 coming up. I know the way everybody looks forward to those.
Oh, yeah. And if you want to chime in on that, it's 270-963-9038. You may tell them what we're doing today.
Today's top 5 is top 5 favorite toys from the 70s.
Yeah, we grew up during then, didn't we?
More or less, yeah.
More or less, yeah. So, yep, we got a list going. So, top 5 toys of the 70s, and we got to thank Jeff Sims for that idea. He gave us that idea.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it was. So, thank you, Mr. Sims, for that. And let's get right to it, Todd.
Okay, we want to talk a little Youth Incorporated sports activities this morning, and we're almost to football season, and plans are already being made for the youth football program. So we've got Chris Ennis on the line joining us this morning, and he's the director of the football program for Youth Incorporated. Good morning, Chris. How's it going?
Good morning, guys. How are you guys doing?
All right.
Doing great. Glad to have you with us. Thanks for joining us, and just tell us a little bit about what's coming up for junior pro football this year.
All right. Well, this will be my second year doing junior pro, being the commissioner. I learned a lot of things last year. Hopefully, we're trying to line some things out. We're going to start with junior pro sign-ups on July the 23rd. It will come online on si.com that you can sign up under Youth Inc. You will be able to sign up there for a while. I will have a few paper copy sign-ups going on around town, but it's going to be very limited, and that will be with people without access to the internet.
Okay.
We're trying to really push, and Youth Inc. As a whole is trying to push online sign-ups. I know several of the other counties around are already transitioned over to it. They don't even do paper sign-ups anymore. I think once we get transitioned to it, I think everybody will like it. You can track, you can do a lot of things on the site. Once you register your child, it gives you the history of every sport you played and paid and all that kind of stuff. So I think people, if they'll get it out there, I think they'll really like it.
Okay.
I had probably 75 to 80% of the kids last year registered online. I'd like to get that closer to 100. If I get in the 90s, and then next year probably do away with paper sign-ups altogether. It's going to be somewhere after July 23rd when the paper sign-ups will come out. And then also all new players will require birth certificates, and it'll be $80 a person, or $80 a child, I'm sorry. And then for a family member living in the same household, so a brother or sister living in the same household, we do offer a $10 discount to the next child signed up. And another cool feature online is a lot of the dads, of course, football comes around, a lot of dads want to help. And you can put on there that you want to coach or want to help, and that helps me kind of predict how many coaches I'm looking for, because we're always looking for helpers and coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can go to youthincorporated.net and still access all those sign-up things?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anything new coming up for the 2018 season?
Not that I know of. We've had some general rule changes in our league over the last few years. I know last year weight limits was a big thing. Of course, they're trying to take a lot of the head-on contact out of football, and that's coming from the NFL down.
Right.
And weight limits on each age group has to change because they're trying to eliminate big kid, small kid activity. That's something that we're really focusing on. All coaches will be teaching, the Hawk type system of coaching, and we're going to start getting out of the head contact even in youth sports. Now I know that with it being daddy coach, there's a lot of dads that want their kid to run over people. But something new this year, we're going to have a new coaches meeting, and we're going to talk about strictly taking the head out of the football game, because that's something we're progressing to. We want to keep football going, and if we want to keep football going, we kind of have to, keep with the times. I know Coach Barnes has asked me every year to have a coaches meeting about safety due to heat, due to just head injuries and all that kind of stuff, and I'm going to try to get with him and have that, but that'll be later on once I finalize the dates and all that kind of stuff.
I think football at just about every level, some people might be surprised at how little teams hit anymore, even in practice. And I know for a lot of parents who might be concerned about that kind of thing, it seems like from every level down, you don't really have a lot of hitting in practice anymore.
No, sir. And it is different in Little League because you've got to teach them how to hit versus how not to hit. And it's a little different because by the time they get to high school age, you can tell a kid, do not put your head there, and they'll do it. Well, an 8-year-old, if you've got to instruct him where to put his head in the first place, because they're going to do it wrong because they've seen it time after time. And most of your dads that are coaching aren't from the coaching ranks, so they don't understand that football is changing as a whole. I've followed quite a few different youth sports programs, and one of them I do kind of follow more than any of them is Owensboro. And with talking with them, they're going to strictly limited padded practices. They're going to the tackling dummies. I know Cray Lewis had talked about getting some of those. And it's a totally new technique of tackling. And I want everybody to know that our coaches will be teaching that. Yes, it's not your typical smash mouth football, but it is still football. And if we can take small parts out and keep football going, I would rather do that than lose football totally.
Oh, absolutely. Even the high school team, once the season starts, I'm not sure they have any full contact drills after that during the week.
Sure. And at that age, I can see that. With the instructional leagues that we have, padded practices, normally a kid might get hit 3 to 4 times, and it's a controlled setting. Of course, accidents will happen. Kids will be kids. They will run up and hit somebody. You can't ever predict it all. But the coaches are going to put an emphasis on taking the head out of football because, like I say, I want to keep it going. And, Steve Cookie, he's done this for years. We've had a couple different people do it. Carl Copeland's done it. I've come back into it. I've been coaching for 12 years now in football alone. And, this is the second year I've been doing it as a director. I learned a lot of stuff last year. So hopefully I can build upon that and make sure that Youth Incorporated has a very good program. To our goal every year, what I tell my coaches is I want to send Coach Barnes 12 seniors. And if we could send him 12 seniors every year, our high school football program would really take off.
Well, we've said that for a long time, that anytime you see a success on the high school level, whatever sport, it's a direct result of, the coaching those kids had growing up. And I think we've been really fortunate here in Caldwell County for years and years and years of having really good youth football coaches.
Yeah, I could tell a turnaround once Youth Incorporated decided to split the teams. And that's something else that I'd like to talk about, too, is, we don't have just one team. We have 2 teams. There's 22 positions on one team to play and 22 positions on the other team to play. Now, obviously, that won't be all new kids playing every position. But here in Caldwell County, we have something pretty fortunate with. We have 2 3rd and 4th grade teams and 2 5th and 6th grade teams. Numbers allowing, and I've not seen it since we've split them, not be able to be allowed. That gives a lot of kids a lot of exposure to play football. And with doing that, we will be sending the middle school higher numbers. Now, we've been down over the last couple of years. Last year, we started picking numbers back up. I think I had over 115 kids in the youth program, but the year before there was only like 78. So, we're building it back up. We had been sending Steve a lot of kids, and then it kind of tailed off, which, in a small community of ours, stuff like that's going to happen. You're going to have ebb and flows of kids coming in. But looking at our school system, the way they're keep progressively moving up, we need to keep sending high school, a steady stream of senior quality kids that have been taught the right way to play football.
Oh, yeah, and the way we're doing it now, in each age group you're developing 2 quarterbacks as opposed to 1, and,
Yes.
a whole lot of wide receivers, a whole lot of linemen, and all those things go into having a good high school football program.
Yeah, we had took a few years off. Me and Brian Courtner had coached together several years, and we took a few years off, and the whole program kind of got away from that. But that's one thing I pushed last year. Our 5th and 6th grade teams last year wasn't as successful as I would want them to be, but we were 5th grade dominant teams. I think we had 7 or 8 6th graders in the entire 5th and 6th grade class. This year, I think people are going to be more than pleased with our 5th and 6th grade program because we're going to be 6th grade dominated. And 3rd and 4th the same way. You just have those years where you have just a few, and for some reason it seems like we have more better years than bad years, but we're going to try to get it to where we produce from the 3rd grade up to the 6th grade. We're sending them 15, 20 kids and 2 quarterbacks, linemen, receivers that have been in the system. I was fortunate enough to have Justin Perkins come. I know he's retired from coaching now, but he come up, and even Caleb Perkins come last year and give like a 2 or 3 day help to my 5th and 6th grade kids. So they were actually running the system that Coach Barnes used. Obviously, it's not got as much terminology in it as what you would have at the high school level, but it is the system. And, getting those kids involved in that early is big.
Well, that's what we heard for years, that one of the advantages that Mayfield had for years over Caldwell County is that their kids started really young, and they were all running the same system with the same terminology. So when they got to high school, they just kind of knew that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm a product of that myself. That's what I had heard all my years. So now that I am the commissioner, and Steve Cook-Nico did a good job of that too when he was the commissioner. He really tried to instill, the high school way too. The guys after that, I don't think they were tied in with the program enough in the high school end of it to be able to access some of those coaches. I've been fortunate enough to be tied in with some of those coaches, so I hear the terminology. I know the thing. I mean, it's a whole lot easier, it seems. And, we want to make sure we teach them in the 3rd grade what they're going to be playing as a junior or senior, and it's more second nature than trying to learn at that level.
Well, talk about the league a little bit, because I'm not sure everybody knows how it's set up, but it's kind of fun because you get to travel and go to other communities and do some things that way. Sure.
We've added Trigg County in the last 2 years. We've still got Webster County, Crittenden County, Morganfield, and Sturgis have now combined, but they still have 2 teams, so it's still like we're playing them separate. They generally have a Morganfield team and a Sturgis team that they've combined under Union County. And then, of course, Caldwell has 4 teams, 2 in both divisions. Everybody gripes about having to drive to Union County, but everybody loves to play Union County. It seems like every year that one of Caldwell teams is in it and one of the Union County teams is in it. I mean, it just seems like that every year for some reason. It's a big rivalry for the kids, and that bleeds over into middle school and high school. But we have a great time. Most concessions are great at these places. They're not expensive. It's not expensive to get in. If you need something to do on an afternoon on a Saturday, trust me, you can watch and you will have plenty of laughs, because it is uncontrolled chaos at the 3rd and 4th grade level and semi-controlled chaos at the 5th and 6th. But all these places all either play at their high school stadium, and some of them have their own place to play. But we're fortunate enough to play at Tiger Stadium. We have full concessions. I think Brock Thomas is going to have the snow cone machine out there a time or 2 this year. It's just a fun afternoon to come out and watch football and support Caldwell County.
It is. Chris, it's Ty here. And I know, I was fortunate enough, you coached my kid, in junior pro, and, we went to Owensboro and won a championship up there with a bunch of young men that later became great high school players. I'm talking about, and you've seen them, you've seen a lot of them, I know, but it was special. And I just wanted to thank you for some of this, the great football memories I have, and it's been fun to watch these young men progress. I got to watch my kid. I got to watch guys like Dylan Gray and, Will Bashir, and then those boys progress and become good high school players because of the coaching that they got at the junior pro level. And it's just fun, man, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's a great time. I can't go to a high school game without running into some kids that I've coached. I mean,
yeah.
And if I walk down on the field, most of them on that field I've coached at some point or another. And that's the same way with all other coaches. I mean, I'm fortunate to be the commissioner and a coach. Usually allows me to do that. And of course, my wife allows me to do that most and foremost. And then I have a big supporting cast that helps me as well. I mean, I have some really close friends that really help me a lot to be able to coach and be the commissioner. But one of the biggest things that I have found that I get out of the fact of coaching is when the kids get to high school and I walk by the room over there and they're all warming up, they're all coming out to talk to you. You know, hey, Coach, what's going on? Man, I remember playing. You know, I mean, it's just something that you can't put a price on, you know.
But you're passionate about it.
And I'm sure other coaches in other places get the same thing. But, you know, Caldwell's my home. That's my alma mater. That's where I played ball. That's the program that I want to see succeed.
Yeah, you do a fantastic job, man. I know you're passionate about it, and can't thank you enough for all these young men that you've touched, and continue to do so. And what a great program you've got, and I know with you at the helm, it's in really good shape for as long as you got it, my man.
I appreciate that, and we're going to keep trying to truck on. And like I say, we've got a fun field season coming up. I expect big numbers. We hope for everything to work out right. And I only have preliminary stuff right now. Is July the 23rd is starting the online stuff, but I'll be putting out more information. I know Todd said he put some in the paper for me.
Yeah, we'll announce for you too. Yeah.
Yeah, and the radio is really great about helping us, broadcast this stuff out. And without the paper helping us and without the radio helping us, I mean, we wouldn't get our name out there. And that's something that we really appreciate from you, from all sports, to be honest with you. I mean, we wouldn't be able to get the kids that we get without that kind of coverage. So we thank you guys and look forward to having a great season.
Do you know yet when practice will start and when the games might begin playing?
I don't, because I'm still trying to find out. And some people out there may know this. I just don't know it at this time. When open house is at the elementary school, because what I do is I keep sign-ups open until after that day.
Okay.
I want to close them down after that day of open house because I get a lot of kids sign up there. And then once we do that, I can't give you kind of a schedule of practices. We will have the joint practice like we have in the last couple of years. All 5th and 6th grade kids will practice together. All 3rd and 4th grade kids will practice together for 1 week. We'll have 3 non-padded practices, and that gives the coaches and I time to look at the kids. And one thing that I really try to do is split the 2 teams as evenly as possible. For the last 2 years, I think the Caldwell games have come down to less than 12 points in 2 years, and we play each other twice. Now, it does not always work out everywhere, but we try to split the teams, and that allows us to be able to split them as evenly as we can. You always have family ties that change that dynamic, but if it's possible that 1 week of non-padded together practices, one team, Caldwell, we try to evaluate, let coaches see kids, and then that helps us move on from there, and then we'll start practices the following week.
Yeah, I think one thing that's helped the Youth Incorporated program, the football program with the junior pro stuff, is that, the kids wear the blue and gold. I mean, that's what
right.
they want to wear. Yeah. They get to wear that to wherever they're playing that week, and that's a pretty big deal and a pretty big drawing power in wearing the blue and gold.
Yes, sir, it is. And kids on Fridays, we instruct them to wear their jerseys because it's always blue and gold day on Fridays at the schools. And, I've gotten comments from teachers, you ought to see how much different they act with those jerseys on, because it just gives them a little bit more self-esteem. And kids that might not even get a lot of on-time field playing time as far as their first year goes, but it still instills that value of loyalty and camaraderie that they get from a game of football, plus going towards their school that they go to. Because those kids are proud of being a Tiger now.
Absolutely.
You can't take that away from them. I mean, win or lose, they still are Caldwell. So, and we can get them to stick together as long as we can. The more fun it is on Friday nights, and that's true football to me. Is Friday night football.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, we appreciate you joining us this morning and giving us some good information on the youth football program. And good luck and have a nice day.
All right, sir. I thank you both, and thanks for having us. And go Tigers.
Thank you, Chris. All right.
That was Chris Ennis, who runs the Youth Incorporated football programs. He's the commissioner of the league, and also a coach. So he's got his hands in all of it. And a lot of those jobs like that are kind of thankless jobs because it's a whole lot of work, and a lot of people expect a lot of you.
They really do, but I tell you what, I was fortunate. My son was coached by Chris Enos and his, some of the fine staff there who's mentioning, and of course Coach Kukihiko up through middle school, and of course Coach Barnes. But man, there's nothing like good coaching in a sport, but it's not just coaching; it's mentoring to these young men as well. And Chris does a fantastic job of all of it. He really does. And
it's fun on Friday night when you go places to play with a high school team, and somebody from the other side comes up that and they're like, "Where do you guys keep getting these kids from?"
Yeah,
I'm like, the youth program.
Mm-hmm.
They get them in junior pro, and then they work with them through middle school.
Exactly.
And by the time they get to high school, those kids can play.
Yeah, they can, and there's no doubt in my mind. And we've had youth football around here for a long time, but when they really started, as you all discussed, kind of incorporating some of the same things and philosophies that they have at the upper levels, middle school and into the high school, when the system got introduced here in Caldwell County, that just helps.
And I think the greatest thing that Youth Incorporated did for football was split those teams.
Yeah.
Because at one time there was one 3rd and 4th grade team, and it would have 50 or 60 kids on it,
mm-hmm.
and there was one 5th and 6th grade team, and it would have 50 or 60 kids. Well, you can't really play realistically 50 or 60 kids
mm-hmm.
and do justify.
Somebody's sitting on the bench.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, when you split those teams, now you've got a manageable 25 or 30 on each team.
Right.
You can put kids in the game. You can get everybody playing time. You can work with everybody.
Sure.
I mean,
makes a lot of sense.
I think that's made a big difference.
No doubt about it. It really has. And our thanks to Coach Ennis for being here at 9:26. We've got some more guests coming in as well. And you want to take a break?
Yeah, and we've got the top 5.
Yeah, we're going to come back and do our top 5, and we'll have more guests coming in and more sports to talk. It's the Sideline Report here on your hometown radio station. It's brought to you by You Ride on Marion Road, Bashir Sawmill, and ABC Finance out at Princeton Plaza on 62 West. We'll be back in just a moment.
Get spruced up this spring with quality mulch from Bashir Sawmill on Dawson Road in Princeton. We all know buying mulch by the truckload saves money, and it's only $25 per load for dark natural mulch at Bashir Sawmill on the Dawson Road, 1/2 mile past City County Park. Bashir Sawmill also buys standing timber and timberland. Give them a call today, 270-365-2330. That's Bashir Sawmill, family owned and operated in Princeton for over 50 years.
All right, 9:27, back on the Sideline Report. And Todd, Jeff Sims lent us our idea for our top 5 this week. Got to thank him for that. And few folks, I think, know about it, but let's see what Bruce Moose said. Okay. He's telling us, the elementary open house is August 9th from 4 to 6. So,
good.
So that's it for those folks who are listening to our Youth Incorporated interview with Chris Enos. So he said he'll have that.
And just once again, youthincorporated.net is the Youth Incorporated website. You can go there and should be able to be,
and it's pretty easy process, I think. Yeah. Just kind of watch it, and they're going to try to go to online registration and eliminate the paper at some point. It probably won't all be that way, but
the good thing is once you sign up, your information is in there, so you don't have to go through the whole process again.
Yeah, and so, but check that out. And elementary open house August 9th. Thank you, sir, for that. That's from 4 to 6. So let's tell everybody about it. We got our top 5 toys from the 70s.
Yes.
Jeff Sims gave us that idea. Of course, pretty good idea. And do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And those of you want to chime in, 270-963-9038. I've got the text line pulled up here. And my number 5, and we're talking football, right?
Yeah.
Electric football.
Oh, wow.
Remember that?
Yes, I had one of those.
Yeah, I mean, you plug that thing in and go, and you got to set up all those guys, and just hope that they, you got little adjustments on their bases. But
yeah, well, my quarterback just always spun around in a circle.
Yeah.
I never could get past that.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of electric chaos once you get them going. Those little felt footballs were hard to keep track of, too.
But, back in the day, anything that moved was awesome. I don't think today's kids would appreciate electric football the way that we did.
Man, it was. I mean, I still have a picture of myself one Christmas getting my papaw was opening that thing up, man, and I was excited. But electric football is my number 5.
Okay, I've got an honorable mention.
Okay,
and that's the Pet Rock.
Yeah,
and only because I have a story.
Okay, we got to hear.
They were selling Pet Rocks at Tressler's.
Yeah,
it was outside by the asteroid machine.
Oh yeah,
yeah, we all played that. I bought a Pet Rock, and of course, all pet rocks had names.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you remember his name?
Yeah, it said your pet rock's name is Todd.
Oh, wow.
What are the odds?
So you didn't know the name beforehand?
No, I just pulled it out. And
what happened to Todd? You still have Todd?
I don't know. I think Todd's gone.
Poor Todd.
Do you know the guy that invented the pet rock is like a millionaire?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I mean,
for selling rocks.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
What a
man.
genius.
American dream at its best. I'm telling you.
But my number 5 is going to be silly putty.
Oh, man. How did I not have that one on my list?
I don't. Rolling that across newspapers. And,
yeah.
You could see the,
I always want to do it. I always did it on the Snuffy Sniff. Is that his name? Snuffy Smith? Snuffy. What was Snuffy's name?
That's a cartoon?
Yeah, it's a cartoon. So Snuffy something. Anyway, he had the big nose. Kind of looked like one of the 7 dwarfs.
Okay.
Snuffy Smith, Sniff, something like that. I don't know. But that's pretty cool. Silly putty. Yeah. I like it. My number 4 is the big wheel.
Oh, yes.
Everybody had to have a big wheel,
I had
man.
one of those.
I had a big wheel. Of course, there was the green machine.
Yeah.
But I was a big wheel man over the green machine.
I think pretty much every kid had one of those at some point.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, man, you could take that thing and kind of learn to kind of spin it around and do twists and turns. So I dig that. Dave, if you're out there listening, just come on in.
So we're up to number 4?
Yeah, we're up to number 4.
Okay. As a youngster, I spent a lot of time trying to knock over a Weeble.
Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
Exactly. I tried to knock those things over, so I've got Weebles at number 4.
That's pretty good. My brother was a Weebles nut. He had that haunted house, and all.
Oh, yeah.
if he's listening to me, he's probably going to kill me. I think he had the haunted house when he was 14. I don't know. My brother might have taken some to Murray State, too. That's hilarious. I forgot about Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. I mean, there's a classic advertising slogan there. I mean, Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. You remember those, don't you, Dave?
Hey, David Brown has joined us, and you can jump in on the top 70s toys if you want to, but we'll talk some racer stuff later too.
This is not I hate to make it a selfish plug, but the wife wanted to have a yard sale, and I told her, I said, just hold off on some of the toys because I've got like an Evel Knievel.
Oh, now you're talking, my man.
And
that might be worth something.
Yeah, you need to hang on to that.
That's what I'm thinking. I need somebody to tell me what that stuff is worth because some of it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It is. That Evel Knievel and, of course, the Tonka dump trucks and all of that stuff.
I like it. He's thinking right.
Yeah.
I've got a tie. There's a queer little robot out there named Tober. And he was weird, man. And he was odd. And, I mean, he had a clicker on there. Now, do you ever remember Tober? It's robot spelled backwards.
Yeah, I don't remember it, but I bet if I saw it, I probably...
I don't remember it. It wasn't a Rock'em Sock'em.
No, this thing had like a clicker, and it just did one thing. It'd go, and you click it, and then it'd go at another angle. But it's Tober. That's robot spelled backwards, and then Hot Wheels.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my number 3. And Hot Wheels. I mean, I grew up on a clay road in Florida, out in the country, and we had a clay road. And I remember taking my hand, and we smoothed out these road surfaces, and we got we trade the Hot Wheels, all kinds of Hot Wheels, different things. So, but yeah, the Hot Wheels were big where I grew up.
All right, my number 3 is going to be Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
There you go. That's a great one.
I thought maybe you might have that on your list.
I should have it on my list because I've spent many an hour playing with those.
Yes,
Weren't those
Jefferson
cool?
and I used to have. We had a bracket. We had names for them,
That's
and
awesome.
we had a bracket to see who would win.
So you guys had boxing tournaments with yours.
Yes,
That's
yes,
cool.
in the wintertime. It was an indoor deal, rain days and wintertime.
Man, if you saw that under the Christmas tree, you knew Santa had come. I mean,
I
when you
just
saw
always
those.
lost.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, me too. And still, anytime I got in a fight, I always lost.
And
so I
every
just
once in
learned
a
to
while,
be good to
you got
everybody.
one with I'm gonna call it a soft jaw. It's really a soft head. If you could kind of blew on his, bang, it was gonna pop up. So,
After a while, yeah.
So you didn't want that one, and it's mainly
Everyone's
the
going to
blue
have
guy.
to run to the internet to find out what we're talking about, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
Anybody under 30 has no idea.
They might. So that was your number 3,
That
Rock'em
was my number
Sock'em?
3, yes.
Okay. We got more input here. See if anybody else comes up here. My number 2, and pick it how you. This is the original G.I. Joes. I'm talking about the one that had the the crew cuts and all that stuff. So G.I. Joes were mine. They had all kinds of action sets. I mean, you had the kung fu grip, and you had all kinds of cool stuff, helicopters and So
The
G.I. Joe.
accessories to go with it.
Yeah, it wasn't these little bitty figures. I mean, it was this was like
Yeah.
the size of a modern Barbie doll, and it had hair and everything, and boots and clothing and all kinds of stuff you put on them. I thought G.I. Joes were pretty cool.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Okay, so number 2. My number 2 is Stretch Armstrong.
Oh man, I like Stretch Monster. That was mine.
I don't remember Stretch Monster.
That had a green Stretch Monster. It had a Stretch Octopus too.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I knew about the
But
Stretch.
I think
know my
every
Stretch
kid
toys.
that had a Stretch Armstrong, the goal was to stretch it to the point to where it would finally pop open.
And it's full of K-Ro syrup.
Yeah, some purple goop or something.
Did you ever puncture yours?
Oh yeah, I think I eventually pulled it apart.
I know he did.
It took a while, but it.
That's a good one, Todd. I really like your list better than my
you could stretch
list.
that list.
Yeah, the technology was incredible.
It really was.
To be able to, yes. I mean, somebody had a great mind there.
Okay, here's my number 1, and
Okay.
Dave kind of touched on it. I liked the Evel Knievel cycle jump set,
yeah.
where you crank it up,
Yes.
you hit the Evil up there, and I mean, man, he took off because Evel Knievel was huge.
I think we all had the same toys growing up.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, those are the ones.
You think there's a bunch, but there's really, I don't think
Yeah.
there's like a plethora. I mean, anymore, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
There was only a few big major toys when we were growing up, and
Yeah.
most of us were fortunate enough. We had parents that worked hard, and we were good around Christmas time, and we got some things every now and then.
Yeah, but that was about it.
Oh, that
you
was
made
it.
You
Yeah.
played with them the whole year.
Oh yeah, you did,
Yeah.
and we're glad to get them.
Yeah. But you would make ramps for Evel Knievel
Oh, yeah.
and see how many, Hot Wheels he could jump. Just
Exactly.
trying to reenact some of his stunts.
Well, those things forced you to be creative.
Sure,
There's
they
no-
did.
Yes.
You weren't just playing; you were actually
You're
Thank
exactly
learning
right.
in some ways. Yeah.
You're
I
exactly
agree.
right.
I
You're exactly
agree.
right. I'm curious. I can't wait to hear your number 1.
Okay, here we go. We got number 1, Mattel electronic baseball and football.
Yeah.
Those actually caught the 70s, and I'm sure,
Yes.
again, if kids saw those today, they would think they were horrible because they were nothing more than just a little blinking red line. But when they first came out, we'd never seen electronic toys before, or computers or any of those things. So,
Right.
the first baseball and football, and football 1, I guess, is the one on my list because football 2 came out later, and in football 2 you could actually pass.
I love football. Yeah,
for
I
a better-
love football 2.
Lack of a better term.
You could.
You couldn't throw a pass in football 1. All you could do was just run the
Run
football
it.
and try to avoid the blinking lights.
Yeah, and those are all great selections. And there was one on there that I did not put on there. I wanted to that launched the video game era, and that was
Right.
just the old Pong.
Oh, yeah.
And I had that. We all probably had it.
I think the Atari 2600 came out
I
right
think-
at the end of the 70s.
I think it did as well.
I was
And-
going to ask
Yeah.
because those were,
Yeah, and I think they probably did. And
I
that's
don't
one
know
that-
if they became affordable for everybody until maybe the 80s, but I
Right.
think they originally came out at the very end of the 70s.
I think you're right about that, and that was something I was trying to. I knew the Pong came out because I
Yeah.
remember sitting there and doop, and doing all that back in the 70s. But man, my phone's blowing up like crazy. Let's see. Ralph Sharp says the thing that you put on your bicycle to make it sound like a motorcycle. He didn't know what it's called, but yeah, that's a good one, Ralph. And a lot of people just use the old baseball card.
Oh, yeah.
too.
In the spokes.
yes.
Will Brown, I had G.I. Joe, buddy. It was my number 2. I don't know where you were. G.I. Joe was my number 2. Will saying, no G.I. Joe? Really? I had him, man.
He must have been mowing a baseball field or something.
Yeah,
while
he
was-
must have
Yeah,
been mowing
he has.
something.
He's done his share of mowing, hasn't he?
He has. But yeah, Will, G.I. Joe was my number 2. So anyway, great list.
Yeah, I think the Atari 2600 was the first one that actually used removable cartridges. Before then, all the games that came out, they were just kind of built into
Programmed.
But that you could
Hey,
actually
you're forgiven.
You could actually take different cartridges and put them in and take them out. And I just remember on the Atari 2600, and it was fantastic at the time, but the Pac-Man was horrible.
Yeah.
We all got so excited because it's like Pac-Man for the home, and then you got it, and it wasn't anything like Pac-Man. And
I was a tank man on that.
Yeah.
The sports games were not good on that either. But boy, isn't it amazing now to see the modern technology of the PS4s and the Xboxes and all that stuff, and where it looks like you're watching a movie.
Oh yeah, well you can get online and play with everybody else, and back then you just were lucky if you had a couple of controllers and a TV that you
Yes.
could plug into. And
I'm gonna let Dave chime in here. Is there anything that off your mind? You're a child of the '70s like us that growing up early Is there something else that we missed that comes to your mind?
I think you've hit them all. I was wondering about the Intellivision and the Atari.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what year they came out, and I was going to guess 80s. But
I think Intellivision might have come along there in the late 70s, too. It was pretty primitive, but I know it was in homes in the early 80s.
Wasn't that put together by some of the guys who had worked at Atari and
it was
kind of got shortchanged and had gone off and started their own thing?
I think that's right.
And I think that's where all those games, or maybe that was Activision. Maybe I'm thinking of something different.
That might be Activision, but I do know I looked up the Intellivision the other day, and it was pretty neat. And there was Barclay Bannister had one of those, and I thought it was so cool because not too many people had them. But and I think his dad played it more than he did.
Yeah. But you mentioned the old Pong, and I had one of those at one point, and again, when you look back now, it looks so primitive. But back then, it was like, hey, it's a game on TV and it moves, and I think we were all kind of enchanted with those things. And
it was huge.
No doubt about it. But there's nothing like, in my mind, growing up in the 70s and even the 80s as it carried over. I mean, by the time 1980, 81 got here, I was kind of getting toward middle school age, but then it was kind of on to different things. The toys were kind of being left, and you were just throwing footballs and playing baseball. Wiffle ball.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that's not of the 70s. That was actually before that, I think.
I think Nerf balls actually came out in the 70s, though. I almost had those on my list.
Yeah, and that, I love Nerf football.
I'm sure we were like you all. We were outside if it was at all possible.
Oh, yeah.
And the other part, if Jefferson or Brian Leach or Kevin Freeman or Chad Pepper, any of those guys, we would try to get different toys. It wasn't like now it seems like everybody has to have the same thing at their place for them. We would try to get different things so that we could all play with different stuff, and it seemed to work. Of course, it caused more fights, it's my turn or whatever, but
Intellivision came out in 79,
time.
according to Jeff Sims.
Okay.
He had one of those. He mentions jarts, the most dangerous game in history, those yard darts, I guess, that you toss, they're like a big old, And, of course, the Evel Knievel wind-up motorcycle jumper. That was my number one, Jeff. So, and thank you, Jeff, if you're out there listening, for providing us this top 5 list. It's a pretty good idea.
I guess wiffle ball. We played more wiffle ball than we did anything.
Yeah, we had a wiffle ball field down there at Kerry Nelson's house in the back of the alley there, right behind his house, man. And we had, where an upper deck home run was, and everything kind of scoped out,
laid out
as to
you knew what it was. It's a double. If it hits over here, it's a single.
Man, it wasn't. We had some great games in the summertime back there, and of course we had some games. I know we used to play at
on
night
the tennis courts.
On the tennis courts that you think at night. You go out there and we play all night long out there.
Well, you had lights, and you were right there. You're inside the tennis court. The home run was over the fence.
You got it.
Stadium. It was a stadium. It was
it
like
really
being
was.
at Busch Stadium or
it,
Riverfront, whoever you were a fan of.
You got it, man. It's good stuff, and in a way, not that kids don't play the way we did, but it's a different time, and things are different.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have cell phones.
No.
You're just kind of on your own to entertain yourself when you were.
We tried to dam up the creek, and behind the park there. We've tried to lay rocks. So you came up with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I took mine this winter. I guess there was a snow, and so everybody was at home over the break. And I said, I want you to see the bluffs in behind Cedar Creek Drive. And I said, it's huge, and it's got a waterfall coming out of a cave, and it's gorgeous. And so we trekked through the snow, and everybody was
Did you
a
hike
little
down there?
ill. Yeah, but we got back there, and I think it's 12 feet high. And I swore
it was 20 or 30.
Oh, I swore it was 40 feet. I told them it's gorgeous, but that we had imaginations back then. It seems like everything was bigger. And I suppose that's what it does when you're a kid.
Yeah, it does. Well, that's an awesome list, and we appreciate again the idea, Jeff. Thank you. And I don't know what we'll do next week. We're working on some things
we'll
right
come
now.
Up with one.
But anyway, good list. Thank you for your input as well.
Well, we wanted to talk some Racer baseball.
Yeah.
Since have a head coach.
We
so
do.
Tell us about that.
We do. Athletic Director Alan Ward announced that he was going and has hired Coach Dan Skirka. Coach Skirka was at Murray State when we originally moved
He's
from.
a familiar name there.
Yes, he is. He was there. I didn't know exactly how long until I read the press release. He was with Coach Rob McDonald for 5 years. And when McDonald was let go to be replaced by our former coach, Kevin Mulder, evidently Dan left a great impression on the staff, in the athletic department, and we're happy with the choice. We're happy with the choice. Now, he has agreed to bring on staff members and hasn't released them. They're going through the human resources process, and I can't get anybody. I've made calls over to HR to try and get somebody to drop a name.
You can't get a scoop on anybody.
No,
can you?
no. I mean, it's really been tight-lipped. And Dan told me himself, he said, listen, I'm not even on payroll yet, and I don't want to get fired before I get a check. And so I can't tell you. And it's a tight-lipped group. But Dan Skirka came to Murray State this time from Walters State Community College, which is down in Tennessee, and they played for the junior college national championship this time. They didn't come out on top. I think Chipotle out of Florida did, but they've won a ton of games since Dan left Murray State to go to Walters State. And so it's hopefully he can bring that same atmosphere to Murray State.
Well, a lot of it's recruiting, right? I mean, you have to go out and
recruiting. It's like
It
real estate.
It seems like he's pretty good at it.
I know that. Well, I've spent a lot of time with him on the phone. He and I have spent time together in Murray since he's been in the area, and I tried to get him to go to lunch the other day, and he said, no, listen, I got to make some calls. So he's skipping meals to make calls to recruits.
Wow.
He's trying to keep the team that we have in place, which hasn't completely happened, which is not a good thing. I hate that.
Had a few jump.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. The offense has taken a huge hit.
Why is that, David? Well, why do they see a coaching change and think, well, I'm going to do something else?
Yeah, it seems
Why
like
don't they give 'em a chance?
I don't know. I'm guessing athletes in general, but I'll say this: what I've seen, and if I talk too much, just say, hey, we need to go to a break.
I asked a question.
Well, for instance, Davis Sims was our third baseman. He was, I think a third-team All-American. Led the conference in doubles at some point this season, was leading the nation in extra base hits. He's playing in the Cape League, and the Major League Scouts told him that he needed to face better pitching, that they felt like that the OVC inflated his numbers because of the lack of pitching. So he transferred to Western. I don't know that it helped his cause. I've talked to his dad about it a few times. Great friends. He and Luke lived together this year, so we wish him the very best. The others were attached to kind of assistant coaches, or
Coach Mulder himself.
Coach Mulder himself, and so those are the only reasons that we can come up with. I scheduled some. Luke got some calls, and we had visits scheduled. And Luke said, Dad, let's give Coach Skirka a chance.
Yeah, and that's where I was going next. I was going to say, was there a point where you all thought, well, maybe we ought to try something else? As I know you were a little anxious about what was going to happen.
Oh, extremely
And I think that's
anxious.
what happens. The anxiety gets to you as a parent and as a player, probably, doesn't it?
Well, there's always the case. When Coach Mulder came in at Murray State, he cut basically half the team that was left there. He wanted to bring in his guys. And so, first of all, as a parent, you start thinking, oh, my, we may lose our scholarship. And second, what's going to happen to the guys? You kind of choose a place to go to college because of friends, because of a coaching staff, all of those things that you try and put together. And so you worry about all of that. And then you wonder, okay, I'm not one of this coach's guys. In our case, Dan, we had built an indoor facility for Murray State's baseball, softball, soccer, and golf. And Dan came and worked with several of the kids, and he and I became close friends. So we're comfortable with the choice, but it certainly has rocked a baseball team that was headed in a really good direction.
Right. And a whole community down there at Murray State, really. I mean, there's a baseball. When you're a family, when you have parents and players and coaches, and it becomes a pretty tight knit group.
It does. It's like any of our high school teams. The parents, you spend so much time together. Yeah. You travel different places together. You eat together. So it's tight knit, and it's a beautiful part about being a part of a team. But anytime there's a change, there's some tearing.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things about college scholarships that maybe not everybody realizes is those are year-to-year things.
Yes.
You don't get a 4-year scholarship. You get a scholarship for a year, and it's kind of up to the coach and the school to renew that each year. So that kind of opens the door for coaches to be able to clean house if they would like to. And
we didn't know that. Originally, we thought, okay, you get a scholarship at a 4-year school, you get a 4-year scholarship. As a matter of fact, we were at I've not been a proponent or a fan of the athletic director there, and won't go into my reasons, but Matt Kelly, the assistant athletic director at Skirka's press conference, handed me a letter, and he said, "This is for Luke." And I said, "Is it a renewal or a release?" And he said, "It's a renewal." And I said, "Okay, praise God." But we didn't know that it's year to year.
Yeah.
And I think that Murray State had its top 100 is the way that they use for press purposes. It was actually a top 70 recruiting class. Murray State's never had a top 70 recruiting class, nor a top 100. We've lost some of those recruits. Thank God for the people in our area. Shane Burns has decided to stay. Shane had several opportunities to leave and go to other schools. Luke had opportunities to leave and go to other, just like Shane, the bigger, better-known schools. Of course, in our situation with Luke being a junior and then having to sit out because of the NCAA rules, we were in a really tight pickle. I suggested that Shane ask for his release from the NCAA, put his foot back in the water. Hey, if you don't like it, come on back to Murray State. I just wanted him to make sure he was comfortable with the new coaching staff, and thank God he is. He is.
Good. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, he's going to have a huge impact.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's pitching great baseball over for the Hoptown Hoppers, and
Coach Skirka and I were talking earlier in the week, and he's got major league scouts that are following him. He's on draft boards, and so
that's pretty awesome.
It's incredible because he's never even thought of himself as a prospect.
Yeah, and if you never know, your mechanics change, you get some coaching, you get a little bit more velocity. I mean, pretty soon, if you're up there 90-some miles an hour, I mean, they're looking at you.
And he throws left-handed.
Yes.
Yes.
Big deal.
That's huge.
It is huge.
I mean, a left-handed pitcher, I mean, if you can get up there and if, you get some stuff working, get a little velocity, man, you're a hot commodity.
We went to see Mark Riggins. Mark's one of the pitching developers for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I asked him to take the job, and unfortunately Mark's wife has ALS, so he's sticking it out with the Blue Jays. They take such good care of him, he and his wife. But we went to see him at Dunedin, however you say it. Dunedin,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm an old Florida
say
boy.
it wrong.
So.
Yes, thank you. Well, I hated to sound like a fool.
No, you're all
and I
right.
started not to even tell a story, but every pitcher that they threw that night
That's
was
their Blue Jays
left-handed.
winter home, so,
Yes. And they're doing a $90 million new facility. But
yeah.
both teams, there was Port Charlotte and Dunedin. Both. Every pitcher was left-handed. It was crazy.
But that's awesome, man. I guess, and I don't want to get too much into this, but it basically for velocity, it's a matter of mechanics, isn't it? I mean, can you find that speed somewhere with mechanics, or where does that come from in a pitcher?
There's all kinds of. There's driveline baseball. That's what we use, and that's what Murray State uses. There's tread athletics. There's a ton of different schools out there. Jaeger Sports, on how to increase velocity, and unfortunately, it's a numbers game. And if you don't hit a certain number with a certain height and a certain weight, a lot of times you get left off and left out.
Or you can be a Greg Maddux and not worry about velocity.
It's there's a ton of guys that have proven that it doesn't have to be true, but the old guys that handle the scouting and so forth still believe they want heat. They want something that you can throw past somebody. So.
I would have thought that location and movement would have been just as important as throwing the ball hard.
Well, when you look at a guy like Greg Maddux and see that most of his stuff was just in the 80-mile-an-hour range, and some stuff softer than that, but he could just had an uncanny ability, and as a lot of major league pitchers do, to put that ball wherever he wants to and move it. Just incredible movement.
Location. And I saw, and I'm sure you've seen it before, that he faced over 20,000 batters and only 310
had a
three-ball no-strike count.
I've seen that number yet.
And 187 of them were intentional walks or something.
That's
absolutely
amazing.
incredible,
Yeah.
and it shows you what that does. I'm sorry to just take you down a trail, but
we talk sports on this one.
We're excited. We're excited about Skirka.
That's great.
Wanted him to keep our pitching coach, Coach Cole Brocker. Cole came from Oregon State and played some professional ball. He turned down a job with the Milwaukee Brewers to be a sports psychologist. I think some of the names for the new assistants will be familiar names that those of us that follow sports in the area have heard. I really thought Matt Myers would be who they offered the job to. I'm learning that low-level Division I athletics is about stretching a dollar.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in a minor sport. I mean, Murray's got a great tradition in baseball, but it's a minor sport.
It's a minor sport. It's a non-revenue sport.
Well, and I've said it before that when you look at all college sports, the level of success teams have is more times than not directly proportional to how much money they put in the program.
Absolutely, no doubt whatsoever.
The University of Kentucky has a good basketball program, maybe the best in the nation, because they put all their money into it years and years ago and continue to pump money into it.
Yes, they do.
I mean, look at what they pay their coach. Look at the perks their coach has. He can fly around the country on a whim to watch any basketball player anywhere.
It's marketed everywhere, and it really is. And I was talking to the marketing director, or not the marketing director, one of the assistant athletic directors, Steve Harrell, about marketing the program, and he and I spent 2 or 3 hours just sitting and talking, and we're going to continue to do so. But Murray State's money goes to basketball, and with the money that they have, and I could tell you how much they spend on baseball or have to spend because I did a ton of research on it. But Dan Skirka is a great choice for the program. And I think we'll see it continue to move forward. I really do.
That's great. That's good news.
It's good news for our area with Luke and Shane. And, of course, I'm biased, but you want to see these local kids succeed. You want to see them have as much success and go as far as they possibly can.
Well, I like it when they recruit local kids. I think
Absolutely.
Western Kentucky has some really good athletes and a lot of sports. Maybe not enough to complete your program, but I would think some of those kids should get an opportunity first. And the one thing that's always disappointed me, like in football, Murray State a lot of times won't offer a kid locally, but they'll go to Texas or Florida, and you'll get the 142nd ranked, defensive back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that kid doesn't have any tie to Murray State. Western Kentucky doesn't mean anything to him.
Right.
Whereas if you took a kid from McCracken County or Mayfield or Caldwell County,
yeah,
that kid's kind of got a tie to this area, and that means a lot to them because they've grown up hearing about Murray State.
I asked Coach Reagan about it one day. I was the water boy, okay. So that a lot of times I'd end up driving on recruiting trips, and so the way that I love to talk, I was always asking him questions. He or Coach Leon Worth, Coach Darren Schoenrock. We've been on so many recruiting trips because they would be tired and they would want to make notes and this, that, and the other. We didn't have cell phones back then, of course, but I asked Coach Reagan why they didn't recruit in Western Kentucky, and he said there's a different level of coaching outside of this region. He said there's a kid, there can be a kid that has great numbers, but there's not enough great kids to know whether those numbers are telling the truth. And he said, so it's economically it makes a ton of sense because there's not the out-of-state tuition like the football team spends a ton of money on out-of-state tuition. And
it's sort of like you were just talking about that player that transferred, that it needed to face better pitching. It's the same. It's a similar concept. I guess they're saying that the statistics and numbers are skewed because they're not facing the same competition, or the coaches aren't putting them in those situations to really reveal whether they can play or not. Right?
That's what they're saying at that level. But I suppose that that must be a recorded statement because Tennessee Tech had 8 kids drafted off of their team this time. And Tennessee Tech's been in the OVC for a long, long time. I can remember going down there myself.
Yeah.
So it's, we took a little old travel team with kids made up of Western Kentucky and went all over the nation and mopped up and
beat the pants off of them.
Beat the pants off of guys. And there's kids at Ole Miss now, Mississippi State, Florida that we played against. And I remember playing against them. And they would pitch, and we scorched them. Naturally we were loaded, but there's a ton of talent in Western Kentucky. I had this conversation with the softball coach regarding a couple of the girls here at Caldwell County and at Lyon County just the other day, and I hope that she listened well. Whether she took it or not, she listened well.
That's
but
good.
We've had football players that I thought could play at Murray State.
Absolutely.
Sure. Never hardly even got a look from them.
No, you're right.
And I'm like, how do you turn that kid down? And again, you bring in a kid. And I know the talent pool is so much deeper in Texas and Florida and those places, but, you would think it would mean a little more to a local kid who's an hour down the road than it would to somebody from, wherever, who's just trying to use it to get to the next step, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Well, let's say that a kid, and I don't know what time it is. Let's say that a kid is a borderline. Hey, can he play Division I baseball, football, whatever it is? But if a coach, here's what happens, in my opinion. If we made an 8-year commitment to somebody, let's say Murray State brought in David Barnes or Joe Morris and said, we're making an 8-year commitment. We're giving you the reins. Then all of a sudden he can begin to develop from the inside out. And you can take some of the best players in Kentucky that are left over after Louisville and Western and Kentucky take theirs. Take those kids. Well, you develop a fan base that fan base starts filling up a stadium down there that's halfway, half the seats are empty. We've all got friends that live in Missouri or Tennessee or, wherever else. And so you start talking about the Murray State athletic program. And so they say, hey, there's a kid over here. He wanted to go to UT, and they didn't offer him. I wonder if Murray State. And so all of a sudden, that kid gets excited about coming to Murray State.
Yeah.
He's excited to have the opportunity. He gives it everything he's got. He ends up being, an All-American. And so it spreads from the inside out. Just like anything else, our bodies will give you every answer to every problem or to a solution. That's the way you build an athletic program to me. And unfortunately, there's so much pressure on coaches to win. They'll take a chance on a guy in Texas instead of taking somebody from home. Yeah. And I think that's the stem of it.
I think you made a pretty good argument as to why that happens. I think you're right on it.
And may I?
Yeah.
Is it time to go or anything?
Yeah,
that was one of the things. They actually hired Coach Skirka for $6,000 less than they were paying Coach Mulder. And we could do a whole show on how all of this came about, and I'd be happy to share everything that I know. Sometime I realize it's football season, and hopefully
it's interesting though how all this works. It's interesting.
The economics of it all has blown my mind,
and that's how it comes down to it.
How Murray State ranks in the OVC on a per athlete basis is a topic. Anyway. The great thing for us is that they've got Coach Skirka. He's a young kid. He's hungry. He wants to go to work. He wants to prove himself. And they've gotten him cheap enough that now they can, at the end of his contract, give him an extension, still be within a budget, and hopefully have a long-term relationship so that they can build something that lasts.
Yeah, I miss the days when coaches would go someplace and build a program.
Yes.
Instead of going somewhere to try to make a splash.
Yes.
And move on to the next program.
Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's good stuff, and we'll just have to watch and see what happens. I know y'all are excited and glad for you, proud for you. I'm glad it's somebody, especially when you have a personal interest in this. And we have a connection here in Caldwell County. That our kids are going to go down there and have a shot to perform, and compete.
We've got some more local kids on the recruiting board. I'm the chaplain of the baseball team, so I have the opportunity. Yes,
oh, good,
so I have the opportunity to
sit in on some things,
to hear some things. I keep my mouth shut, believe it or not. But Dan has asked for any recruiting notes, and
you see a lot of good
help
players
that we can give me. We're at the baseball park so much that we do, and there's more local kids that'll have the chance to play at Murray State, and that's what I want.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for your insight. Very, very interesting, and man, we wish our racer program. I'm an alum myself, and I love Murray State. I love the racers. I got a kid going down there. He's not playing anything, but it's a part of who we are. I am, and I love it. So
if he wants to, let me know.
I think he left that a long time ago. I don't know if he can catch up to a ball, but Todd, what a show today! I do want to mention we've got a few more things to mention. We'll go a little over today. We've got a new ladies softball coach.
Yes.
And David Schote named that I think yesterday or day before, wasn't it?
Yeah, this week. Tuesday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lady Tiger soccer team has a new coach, and that's a Murray State alum.
Yes, she is.
And and she played soccer, I think, down at Murray. So and an Australian native. That's pretty cool.
And we don't want to get out of here without talking about Emma Talley.
Of course.
Wow. What a weekend she put together last weekend. I think there's something wrong with shooting 20 under par and losing by 11 shots. But I mean,
it's amazing.
Who shoots 31 under par?
Yeah.
I mean, that was incredible. But Emma with a tied for third. made a lot of money. I think she's secure for next year on the LPGA Tour.
Yeah, that pretty much secured it for her.
She's had a heck of a rookie season when you start looking at the money list. And she's back at it today.
1:32 p.m.
It's the Marathon Classic. I think is Sylvania, Ohio, an hour ahead of us. So I think 12:32.
Yes. Yeah, maybe 12:32. But they're already scorching the course. The ones that went off early are already a leader at -5.
Oh wow!
So they're already.
So we have another one of those this week.
Yeah. So Emma.
Confidence builders.
In an afternoon group. Around noon or so, a little after that. So,
but the Marathon Classic, Emma has actually played in that event before.
Oh, she has.
She got an exemption to that tournament in 2015. Did not make the cut, but at least she should be a little familiar, with the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it couldn't happen to a better kid. I don't care if she's from Princeton or Podunk. She is an incredible young woman, and I couldn't be more proud for her.
Yeah. And
Golf Channel coverage is actually tonight from 8 until 10 o'clock our time, tape delayed. But, hey, that just gives us a good chance to get home and watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's we wish her best of luck, and, I think she secured it for next year, and it's fun to watch. I know a lot of people follow her because of the hometown feel and aspect, and what an incredible tournament she had last week.
She was on TV quite a bit if you got to watch any over the weekend, and it looked like she was having fun, which was the best part of it, because sometimes you look at those professional golfers and they just look miserable because, there's so much pressure.
It's like
on
about
every shot.
the pin of their scorecard.
It's not like you're going to lose a quarter if you miss a putt, I mean,
exactly
it's huge. They handle it so well.
And not just your putt, but Emma was actually in a two-way tie for third place.
Yes.
And on the 18th hole, one of the other girls made a birdie, which put her into the tie for third, make it a three-way. So that probably cost Emma about $15,000. Somebody else making a putt.
One putt, yeah. And nothing you can do about it except watch it.
It's like I say, in golf, you can't play defense. It's like the girl that shot 31 under. I mean, congratulations.
What can you do?
Yeah, I mean.
You can't pull a Tanya Hart and break her clubs or something. No. I commend the local athletic department here at Caldwell County High School. They've made some great choices, in my opinion, with the softball coach. The soccer coach is going to be incredible. I've talked to my brother-in-law, Brent Goulet, about her. Brent is an agent, a foreign agent, mostly for Germany, and played professionally for 21 years and works with kids in the area. And he says it's an incredible high school hire.
That's awesome. That's good news.
It's great news.
And, we've got an up-and-coming, ladies soccer program. Eric Jacobs did a great job laying a good foundation, and, boy, that's good stuff.
And, we're about to the time of the year where football previews are going to come out for colleges. Purdue is looking pretty good in a lot of those. I think they've been rated maybe as high as third in their division in the Big Ten, which is pretty tough. Don't know if you saw it last week, but Elijah Sindelar, one publication voted him the best arm in the Big Ten.
Wow.
And Elijah's going to be in a quarterback competition again. I think that's just a perpetual thing that's going on at Purdue with him and David Blau. But both of those guys can play. You see most of the previews, and it says Blau is the better runner, Elijah's the better passer. So we're going to see how that plays out. But that'll be fun. Yeah,
it will be. It will be. And just stay tuned and watch that. But fall right around the corner. Again, our football team out. Dead period's over. It's fall season for all our sports teams. They're on the field getting ready to go. And it's going to be fun as we move in these next few weeks.
Have our previews planned for the newspaper starting August 8th with volleyball. And then soccer for Caldwell County on August 11th. Football is August 15th. So, man, there'll be a lot of stuff in the paper 1st of August.
And get ready and be sure to check out the best coverage around in print, and that's Todd Griffin in the Times Leader. David, thank you for being here, and we hope to have you again. It's good to have you around.
I enjoy you guys.
And we appreciate you coming and giving us your insight. So
thanks to Chris Ennis for joining us. And, the Youth Incorporated Ballpark is looking great. We're about to finish up with baseball and softball season. Still got baseball tournament to go next week out here, and then it's on to football. And, of course, Chris Ennis has done a great job there. And
no doubt.
Yes.
A lot of things going on with Youth Incorporated.
That look for sign-ups for junior pro football and volleyball, and and even some fall baseball, softball. But thanks to you, you've done a ton of it. So keep it up, guys.
Awesome.
We appreciate you.
All right. Great show. Tune in next week. We don't know what our top 5 will be yet, but we'll have one. And we certainly...
if you have suggestions, send them our way.
963-9038. Give us a text. That's the radio station text, or you can text one of our phones. We'll be glad to listen. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Todd.
Thank you.
David, thank
fun.
you. And thanks to our sponsors. Of course, that is going to be U-Ride in Princeton, Bashir Sawmill, and ABC Finance out on US 62 West. It's 10:14. We went a little over, but hey, that's okay. We're going to give you your weather forecast. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you next week on the Sideline Report here on your hometown radio station, WPKY The Tiger.
From the WPKY Weather Center, here's a look at the latest local forecast on 103.3 FM, The Tiger.